Welcome to Vocabulary Video 5.2. This video is on the mole part 2. The mole ratio. A mole ratio is the fraction comparing the coefficients of two items in a chemical reaction. As a reminder, the coefficients are these big numbers in front of the elements or compounds. Example, in the equation below, the mole ratio of oxygen to water is 1 to 2. So we simply just take the first coefficient and put it on the top of the fraction, and the second coefficient's on the bottom of the fraction. That's a mole ratio. The limiting reagent or reactant. The reactant in a chemical reaction that runs out first. It determines how much of a product can be made. Example, if you have 1,000 slices of cheese and only 4 slices of bread, you can only make 2 sandwiches. That's because each sandwich needs to have 2 pieces of bread. The bread is the limiting reactant in this example. The same works for atoms of oxygen and hydrogen or any other atoms. So down here, you'll see that there's way more blue atoms than red atoms. So the red atoms are going to run out before the blue ones. The red atoms are the limiting reactant. The opposite of the limiting reactant is the excess reactant or reagent. This is the reactant that is not completely used up in the chemical reaction. Some will always be left over. Another example, if you had 1,000 pieces of cheese and 4 slices of bread like before, the cheese is the excess reactant because you would have 998 slices left after making 2 sandwiches. Below, the hydrogen, which is blue, is the excess reactant or reagent. So we have all of these blue atoms and only these red ones. So once we go ahead and combine them up, we have a bunch of blue atoms left over or excess. The actual yields. The actual yield is the amount of product actually produced and measured in a lab setting, rather than by paper calculations. So for example, if I mix 2 grams of hydrogen with 16 grams of oxygen and only get 15.45 grams of water, 15.45 grams is the actual yield. Even if on paper I calculated that it would be 30 grams that I was supposed to make, whatever I actually make, that's going to be the actual yield. The opposite of the actual yield is the theoretical yields. This is the predicted amount of mass that will be produced from a chemical reaction based on perfect conditions. This is the one that I often calculate with a calculator. That's why you see the calculator listed here. For example, if I mix 4 grams of hydrogen with 32 grams of oxygen, I expect to get 36 grams of water if every molecule reacts correctly. So if I were to do the calculations, I'm going to get 36 grams of water as the most I could possibly make. And we'll talk more about these in class and how they relate. Percent yield. Percent yield is relating the actual and the theoretical yield together, and you'll see it in the equation right down here. The percent yield is how much of the expected product was produced. It is found by dividing the actual yield by the theoretical yield and multiplying it by 100%. For example, if you expect to get 200 grams of product, which would be the theoretical yield, and you actually only get 100 grams, your percent yield would be 50%.